Teresa Pence here is going to be assisting me today. Teresa takes the notes and make sure I get it all right and remember it. First of all, I apologize sincerely for being late, not usually late, but I thought I was told that this facility was west of El Morro, so we just breezed on by and we ended up in Raymond and got some folks at the post office there who told us really where you were. So we apologize. And then of course the second thing was the computer was trying to do things that we've never seen it do before. Anyway. Seattle County has gotten a community development block grant to update their comprehensive plan. And there are two other items that they've asked us to work on in draft form. These two items are not part of this public meeting or any public meetings. This is strictly for the comprehensive plan. We've been asked to take a look at revising and updating the subdivision ordinance that the county has. And there have been some recent additions to the state statutes that we're going to incorporate. They've also asked us to take a look at some road standards in the ordinance. The other ordinance that they've asked us to take a look at, finishing up, there's been a committee, I understand, working on it. They're calling it the land use ordinance, and that's a misnomer. It really isn't. It's an omnibus ordinance that takes a look at, it incorporates the International Building Code. It takes a look at siting requirements for manufactured homes. It takes a look at RV parks and siting requirements for RV parks as well as mobile home parks. Takes a look at some requirements for screening salvage yards and that type of thing. Okay. If there's any thought, and I understand from a couple of the other meetings and a couple of comments, that we may be trying to do a zoning ordinance there, we are not. There's no zoning ordinance involved in any of the work that I'm doing for the county. The consultant team, it's R.M. Drakery Associates, and we'll be doing the land use plan and the economic development components. Dennis Engineering, who are out of Edgewood, New Mexico, will be looking at transportation and some of the water issues. Unfortunately, we're going to have to look at and depend on existing water reports in order to come to some conclusions here. There simply isn't enough money or time in the budget to redo any water studies. And unfortunately, the one for the county that's for the Region 6 is a little old and really is in need of some updating, I think. Comprehensive plan is, and it is not an ordinance, comprehensive plan is a policy document, and it's typically aimed at physical development, physical growth of some magnitude. It is primarily comprised of a land use plan that is an arrangement of residential, commercial, agricultural, industrial uses. The plan for the county will be rather generalized because of the size of the county and because of the makeup of the county. We are not doing a plan for Grants or Milan or any other little urban place. They will be shown on the land use plan as urban areas or urban growth nodes of some sort. And there won't be any detail to it. Up to about 20 years ago, these comprehensive plans were typically land use plans only. But in the last 15 to 20 years, we've had other things creep into it, especially economic development and developing some strategies. The roads and water have always been a part of the plan in some form, usually not very detailed. Housing needs, relatively new, but still has been a part of the plan in the past. What we hope is that the county commission will use this plan as a guide for making decisions, budget decisions, development decisions, and I see smiles across the audience. That's my hope. That doesn't always happen. The implementation section is an important section, and there are 10 sections to the plan typically. Teresa, I may have to put you. You can't see that, and I really didn't intend you to. This is a large spreadsheet, and this is actually from the village of Capitan. It's the last plan that we had finished. And the next time we do this, we will have a draft plan and very specific things to talk about. We'll have some growth scenarios, some population growth scenarios to talk about. We'll have some economic development strategies to talk about. And I would expect some very specific comments back from folks like you. But in each chapter, economic development, land use, roads, water, we usually set up a topic area, and it could be roads, it could be land use. And I'm starting at the left-hand column. As you work over, there'll be 1 or 2, 3, 5 goals. It depends on what we get into in terms of developing a plan. For each goal, there are a set of objectives, just some standards, some targets that we want to achieve. And then that's the third column. Fourth column are some specific strategies for achieving those objectives. And they may be money oriented. We will usually in the economic development section have a list of possible grant or loan areas by the state that can be tapped to do certain things. There's no guarantee you'll get the money, because money is really tight both at the state and federal level right now. But we will list the possible sources of funding. And then beyond that, there could be 10 or 20 columns. But those columns typically are labeled, what's the priority? Which one of these objectives or goals is a priority? Is it 1, 2, 3, 10? And then who's going to carry it out? Is it a specific committee of the county, or a committee that the county might set up? What kind of resources might they need in order to carry out that specific objective? What kind of time frame do you anticipate doing it? And so on. It can be any column heading, it can be any number of columns. And that will be up to the county to fill that out. The public participation element is really key in this plan. And it is a requirement. These are federal funds that we're dealing with, and it's passed through the state. And it's a requirement of both the federal government and the state government that we hold public meetings. And it gives us an idea of what the issues are, what you people want, or think you want, or what you'd like to have. Can't promise that we can do all of that. We can incorporate a lot of things into the plan, and we'll do our best to do that. What we do hope is that with the residents and the businesses in the county, that it gives you a feeling of some ownership to the plan, that you've had a chance to participate in the plan, both at this stage and the next stage, which will be the very specific elements of the plan that we can present to you in terms of growth scenarios, economic initiatives, that kind of thing. So we hope you end up having a vested interest in the plan. Can't guarantee that, I just hope you do. I should stand behind it. This typically is the chapter heading, and I better see if I've got that. Now let's do the work program, because that's really the important thing. What we're doing now, and we've really talked to county staff, some other folks too, some other groups like Main Street and Grants. We need to get to the Pueblos. We'll be meeting with the economic development folks there. I'm not sure that they're going to participate. The plan doesn't mean anything to them. It doesn't apply to them. No ordinances apply to them. But if they want to participate in some way economically, we'd be happy to have them do so. But we'll meet with them and find out what's going on. But there are a lot of other groups or individuals that we want to meet with as well. We're in the first round of the public meetings, and this is information gathering for me. So I'm here to listen to you. I'll try to answer questions if I can, to the best of my ability. We're also into data gathering. Teresa is primarily responsible for pulling all the housing, demographic, and any economic data together that we can get our hands on. Most of it comes from the U.S. Census. The problem area right now is the economic data. The typical census, the demographics, population, sex, they didn't do incomes. What else? Housing information is typically part of the 2000, 2010, and then 2020, every 10 years, the census. And then in the off years, starting this year, this go around, 2012, they do an economic survey. And that data was supposed to have been out spring and summer of last year, and we haven't seen this much of it yet. And we don't know what's going on. As a business owner, we got a copy of the economic survey. We answered it over a year ago. So where the information is, I don't know. But it's really important because it does give us a lot of labor data, very accurate labor data. And I'm going to show you some information later on here that is based on estimates. And we don't rely on those very much unless we really have to, because they're not terribly good. But it's really all we have. Then comes with all the meetings that we have, the research that we do, and the discussions that we've had with county staff and other folks. So we get into the analysis and preparation of that first draft. And we're actually doing the first draft concurrently. As we move along, Teresa will draft some of the sections of the plan. I do some of them, and the engineering company does others. And we just pull it all together and make sure it all fits. The public meetings, the second go around, this will probably be at the end of June, early July, that we'll have another round of public meetings. That's a rough guess at this point, but we'll try and get a notice out. Actually, we'll try and get the notice out a little sooner than we did this time. From the public meetings and those discussions, we'll do changes to the plan. And then that final plan will be presented to the county commission, and that will be at a public meeting. So you'll all be invited to attend and welcome to attend. Just a little bit of information. Received county grants in Milan, and when you see the actual draft of the plan, we have information and data for other place names as well, Fence Lake, for instance. So we have some information for that. But you can see that all three county grants in Milan have kind of jumped around, and certainly between 80 and 90 was a big drop, and that's when the uranium industry kind of collapsed, folded their tent, and left town. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I understand and I hear that there's some initiative underway for a resurgence of the uranium industry. Some of the drops have been pretty dramatic. In actual numbers, maybe not so much, but certainly percentage-wise, they have been. Age, sex information, pretty good and even distribution throughout the county. I was surprised and pleased. Your youth base is pretty good. Your work years, childbearing years, that's where your greatest population is, and that isn't always the case across this state. And the elderly, the 60 plus, and I'm in that group too. About 18% of the population, thereabouts. It varies from the county to the city and the village. The median age is important, and I've given you some comparisons along the left-hand column there. And you can see a couple of the counties at Sierra and Harding being very high. In Harding County, actually, Mosquero is actually almost 62. It's a well-aged community, and not growing, probably not going to, unfortunately. Anyway, and you're good with the state as well, just about on par with it. These are the 5-year estimates I was talking about earlier, and unfortunately, it's the best information that we have at this point. But the civilian labor force is estimated at 10,600 and change, and the actual number of employed about 8,700 and change. 60% of the people who are employed are basically in 4 industries. The accommodation and entertainment sector, retail, education, and public administration. Those are the 4 biggest labor-producing groups. Average household size is good, 2.79. So many other areas are around 2.2, 2.23, thereabouts. Median household income, not sure how accurate that is at this point. Again, it's 5-year data. And the problem with these estimates is that they're taken from such small samples. So relying on them is not always the best thing to do. If we can get a couple of other sources for this information, for example, Workforce Solutions out of the state, sometimes will publish their own data, and if we can get a fair comparison, then we'll use those data. Anyway, Siebel County, household income at $35,674, and New Mexico at $44,800. So you're a little below. You folks are a fair distance from grants in Milan, so you may have different issues and different thoughts here. But in terms of things to build on, and I have a lot of this stuff focuses on urban areas, but not all of it. You have so much to build on in terms of tourist facilities, from El Morro to Malpai, and so on. You have natural resources. I've been told that coal is not a big labor producer these days, and most of it's in McKinley. But I understood that a lot of the labor came out of Cibolo County. Uranium, and I said we'll get to that. I do want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about tourism and what you think. I'd like to know what's going on in this area and what issues you have and what you'd like to see happen. There's a very strong retail sector, and again, it's grants in Milan. Various area facilities, the Aviation Heritage Museum, which I think is relatively new, but I think doing fairly well. The Mining Museum. There are things to build on to get people here in the county. The Council of Governments is a good source of information, and they do an economic development strategy plan, and they're updating the plan that they have now. Albeit, it's for a region, it's for 3 counties, it's not just for Cibolo County. And there may be other strengths, and certainly people. And the people that I met, and who have given me information, who have asked questions at the meeting so far. And my first meeting was at the Senior Center, and there was no doubt about what those people thought at any particular time and any particular issue. In many cases, it wasn't just no, it was hell no, we don't want that. So I understand. Things to build on generally, tourism, mining, the alternate energy. You have the Red Mesa wind farm here. I understand that there's a solar field being developed, and I don't know much about that yet, but I will. These industries, or these alternate energy facilities, typically don't produce a lot of what I call basic jobs, first-line jobs. Typically for the wind farms, it will be about 0.8 full-time employees for 10 megawatts of power. So if you've got a wind farm of 100 megawatts, you've got 8 people employed. Usually it's a little less than that. And that's all maintenance and operations, but they're well-paying jobs. The bigger employment opportunities comes from the sports sector, whether it's electrical contractors, small engine folks, that type of thing that will support the wind farms and the solar fields. The accommodation and food industry sort of goes along with tourism. And then there are special events, and I understand that there are 2 major events in the county right now. Maybe there could be more, I don't know. But we'll take a look at that, those kinds of things. Anyway, and that's my contact information, and you're certainly welcome to call, email, and I'll leave that up for a while. And that's essentially, that's the end of the presentation. And it's just an introductory presentation. I wanted to know what we're doing. I wanted to know what a comprehensive plan is. And now, I would like to start just by asking you some questions. You all live in Seaton County, and you're up here in a very rural area. Tell me why you're here. Why do you like it?
It's a very rural area.
I'll make it plain and make you very unhappy.
Okay.
What size shoes do you wear?
What difference is it?
You're gonna find out.
8.5, 9.5.
Okay, how would you like to walk around in fours, because that's all that's gonna be made available in the order to wear.
You got a point, sir, make it please.
Okay, the point is, we, or at least one of my ancestors, left Europe to get away from the idiots. He was put on the boat violently because he and his family didn't like the Europeans taking it in and giving it to the aristocracy. We don't need to be like Europe. It does not fit. The requirements in grants on whatever you want to say populated areas are not the same as rural areas. One size shoe does not fit all. And this is what COG is about, which, by the way, is the United Nations downgrade. We don't need the United Nations telling us to be like Europe. We don't need our government telling us to be like Europe. We have our own things. And this county government has been informed more than once that if it continues down the road of saying that we are going to be just like France in this rural area, or whatever, we will form another county government.
Tell me what you want. What makes you different? I just asked you that question. What makes you different, and what would you like me to do, or what do you think I
The
can
only
do?
thing the county can provide for us is roads, which they claim they are up to a Schuler standard, which is a crock of shit.
Okay.
The roads are not wide enough, they're not properly maintained, the ditches, below spots fill up with water. We have gravel in a few spots. And I live on an interconnect road, which is the highest level, other than a highway. It's between two state highways, and they can't even keep it open.
Okay.
Well, we can't afford culverts. We got no money today. We got two blades that are out up on the county commissioner's area doing his roads. That's why we don't get any cooperation from the rural areas. We don't have garbage service. We have a private garbage service we pay for. We have no recycling. We have no police enforcement. And when we did, they came in and cut my goddamn chain on my gate for no reason, citing, somebody call us. They haven't paid for the damage or anything. I have been into the county several times trying to, the assessor came out. I had been into the assessor's office many times trying to get the tax thing in my name. And I finally did. That took 2.5 years. Then they came out and said, well, we got to assess it. Okay, they went through and they assessed it. But 3 years later, I got a guy trespassing on my land. Well, we come out every year. No, you don't. That's illegal. You want on my land? Notify me. So then we go back again, and here we come again. With a phone call. Well, I don't own the phone, so it went through a series of people to get to me. And I said, all right, I don't care, come on. I'll walk you through. I gotta shut all the security systems and shut down in order for you to come through here, which is a pain. Walked them through, walked them back out. Now they're back down there again, a year later. Wait a minute. State law is every 5 years. If you don't like it, I'll raise your assessment to $250,000, and we'll see how you like it when I get your attention. Well, son, that's blackmail. Next thing is done. That's
No, please.
Okay.
You hang on, please. I'm willing to listen to this, but what I asked you was, what do you want? What makes you different? What can I do?
I'm pointing out what makes us different. We do not need all the laws in the city. We don't need regulations up the yin-yang. We need people to hold honest meetings. Now, Fence Lake is quite a ways away, and they told us this was in Raymond. Well, this isn't in Raymond.
No, it's not.
No. So that's part of the problem right there. Now, we've got a county manager who was never there. He's sick. We have changed sub-managers about 9 times, I know, in the last couple of years. They finally have an operations manager. I give her good credit. She is trying to do this. And she did. They're not on the road fund. Give her that. But we got a long ways to go, and we don't have a school down there. Our students go over to Catherine County to school. So we probably wind up paying double taxes, I don't know. Do anything for us, and they really can't. The only things we ask for, like recycling, like garbage service, like the other places have, they don't want to provide. They don't want to fix the roads. So the best thing to do, if they can't do those things, is just don't, period.
Okay, all right, so you tell me roads, you'd like some recycling service, and trash. Whether it's probably not gonna be direct door-to-door pickup, but if it's transfer
No, I mean, if
stations.
they put a,
Sure,
we got a container down by the fire department, which the county owns, by the way. They own a community center, but they don't use it. They don't even have the keys to it. I mean, we can't provide.
and the other thing I heard was laws that may apply to grants in the line, and actually, it's not county law that applies to them anyway, but you don't want.
Well, wait a minute. Excuse me. I'm under a misimpression there. I thought the hierarchy started out in cities, townships, what have you, county government, state government, and federal government, each one having the authority running downhill. So, any laws in the county do affect the city and the.
I can't do anything about federal law, I can't do anything about state law. We might during an election, but that's about it. But as far as, all I meant was, ordinances that may be in place in grants, they do have a zoning ordinance, they do have subdivisions, they have a sign ordinance, and I don't know what else. And I think Milan does too. The county does not. County does not.
Wait a minute. These are only in subdivisions out there where I live.
Well, they have a subdivision ordinance, that's true.
Yeah.
And if you're suggesting they shouldn't have one,
Well, I'd say what they got, since several of these where I live have been, according to the county manager, are totally illegal. Or were illegal when they issued it all.
that's good.
And I haven't managed to get anything about fixing any of the problems, which I just assume they didn't at this point, because we've settled things out pretty well. But, it's just a reflection of the problems.
Where do you live?
Fence Lake.
All right, let me come back to you. Started with asking, if you're different out here and you want to be treated differently, tell me how. Gentlemen, yes.
Well, you asked water right.
Yeah,
Sure. You know, I moved from an urban area to the city. And I love the diversity. I love the sense of differentness yet cohesiveness that I've experienced here for 15 years. Lots of mutual support, lots of beauty. I'll stop there because I know others have things to say on that, so.
You know, there are many reasons, but I think it's clean here, and we have pretty clean air and pretty good water, and it's quiet here. And those things are really important to, in my opinion, to maintain over time as the area continues to grow. Let me just, one more thing I want to say. Another thing, though, is that there is opportunity here, that we aren't regulated out the wazoo yet. And so there is some opportunity for people to get started in small businesses or take up small scale agriculture. And I think that that's something that we'd like to see continue too, that we don't become so overly regulated, as if we're big industries and big producers and all that, so that opportunity isn't there for the individual and a small group of people. And I think that trying to keep the balance of power to the small people and not the larger interests is something that I want to see maintained.
Well, I understand the issue of regulation, and I mean, I don't run my business in a rural area, I run it in Albuquerque, and I wish there was a hell of a lot less regulation everywhere. So I understand. Anybody else? Yes, sir?
Yes, I own RV Park and Cafe across the highway here.
Yep.
And what draws people out here is exactly what they're talking about. And so for us to keep the beauty and keep the quiet and keep the national park here, that's what draws people out here. Something I would like to see in the future, and I don't know if this is part of your plan or not, is sometimes we have some safety issues here. Of people trying to turn into my business or turn into the gallery here. Because in the summertime especially, there's a good bit of traffic.
Okay. Yes, sir.
We have a small group called Friends of 53 that focus on this highway as a resource, particularly as a tourist resource. And I think that a lot of things that make this highway special and the kinds of things that have pulled us here, it's the beautiful history. This highway is part of an Ancient Way Arts Trail. It's part of the Trail of the Ancients, the scenic byways. There is falls is in the National Geographic Four Corners Geotourism region, which are only 17 in the world. It passes through 2 national monuments, a national conservation area, a national forest, and 2 Indian reservations. It contains several businesses, a number of growing communities, and it is the beauty and the history that's flowed up and down this highway since 900 AD. It's the depth and the beauty of what's here, and a lot of that is what draws us here. A lot of artists and writers and painters and a lot of creative people in this area that are drawn here by the beauty and the diverse community, and that's what we're here. A lot of us.
I just wanted to add one thing to what everybody else has said, is that we really like the darkness at night.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the night sky act is enough. When you apply the night sky act to a business, it's still too bright for us, because it's so dark along this road. And we need a different kind of lighting regulation.
Okay. Somebody else had their hand up here?
I'd like to say that I think what attracts people, what makes it unique out here is the condition of the environment, the fact that things are quiet, there's space between people, there's enough space to be yourself and not feel like you're infringing on someone else. There's deep, deep water sometimes, but the fact that, I mean, it's a crapshoot whether you hit or not, but what I'm trying to say is the fact that there's water available which you don't have to particularly worry about its history because you know its history. I think the developments that are going along the Highway 53 enhance it in the sense that the ones that are seeking to get tourist dollars or cause tourists to come here, those facilities are trying to look good and they're trying to keep a pleasant, they're not making a lot of noise or a lot of smoke or something like that. I think the industries that we have that use the roads a lot need to do the roads or need to respect the small traffic. In other words, the big heavy traffic that's on the road needs to operate at a speed where they can stop. If either an elk or a person's there with a broken car or something like that, they need to be respectful of the speed here. The turning problems that are going on this curve here are significant, and we get black ice come wintertime. We get pretty rough roads, rough conditions. I'm trying to say we're slippery. The ability to operate safely through this corner is important. The ability to not have people come around a corner, some of which are on 53, I'm speaking, and have somebody, slipping gravel off and hit the windshield or whatever the problem is part of what makes this area what it is. Because there's not much economic development out here, it's hard to make a living. So the idea of having places where you can make a living and get a job is also critical. So I would suggest that it's the way this place looks, the way people that came here found it when they got here, was that it was appealing. And that appeal draws people here, it draws economic development. People travel a long way to shop, they travel a long way to go to school. They're committed to being out here. They go to some trouble, they almost all have four-wheel drive or something like that to facilitate it. So I just say that the continuation of the pleasant aspects of the area is both useful for the businesses, for the safety of the people here, and I encourage our planning to keep that in mind.
Let me come back to the issue that was raised here, plus all of the benefits or the good reasons why you're all here. One of the things that I've talked about at the last two meetings, part of my task is to take a look at what economic initiatives might be built on that might promote more growth, that might promote more tax opportunities, that might promote more job opportunities and investment in this county. And one of the things, that's not there, tourism. So let me give you a scenario. Suppose that we put in place a number of strategies that literally in the next 10 years double the amount of tourist travel through this area. And it's going to become a lot of it along Highway 53. What does that do to your way of life? Is that acceptable to you? Because there will be other businesses that will locate here. Probably food, maybe bed and breakfast. I don't know whether you'll get a motel, hotel. You might. Think about it. Well, you're good point, but I'm not talking about infrastructure. The infrastructure's got to be there to support what we're doing.
We've heard this about infrastructure, and our road is still, actually, this is a wide two-lane road compared to most of the county. But they're chip sealed, they don't have a good rock foundation on them. There's no shoulders.
Okay.
As the gentleman pointed out, you gotta change the tires and get hit, because,
There's no place to do it.
and they don't seem to be willing, both state and county does not seem to
Okay,
be
but
willing.
just put the infrastructure aside for a moment. I'm talking about your way of life changing, because if I don't know how many people are going through here, but I'll find out. Suppose there's 20,000 people going through here on an annual basis. Suppose it's 50,000. What does that do to your way of life? Are you happy? Not happy? Tell me.
A whole lot of racket.
Man, yes.
All.
Yes, but that's growth and there's money that goes with it.
Let's hope it doesn't go my direction.
Okay. Well, and
We're within a day's visit from 6 national parks and monuments and Indian Republic,
right.
here. It could be a bedroom community rather than a point of interest except for El Morro. But, I mean, you can stay here and you can visit all these places. But what is there really here to do besides El Morro? And
I don't know. I spend time, my family spends time at
Zuni
home.
Mountains, yeah.
No, we have all that.
Yeah.
Those are 3 of the 6.
Well, there's also hiking, hunting in the national forest, hiking.
And there's the trail systems that are being talked about.
Oh,
In the wet years, we have a couple of fishing lakes. Yes,
Okay.
I guess I would like to know what tourism would bring to the general population here. And I don't mean that in any sort of prejudiced way. I'm curious, because every time there's a topic of economic development in rural New Mexico, the first thing on the list is tourism. And I happen to be a business owner, and I might benefit from tourism, although I doubt it. I sell feet, and I have some through. But anyway.
You could add likes it.
But, you know, I do, and I mean, you know, there would be some, and there are some businesses that definitely do.
Sure.
You know, the restaurants and the bed and breakfast and the RV park. But in general, when we're talking about economic development in this huge county, why is tourism always the first thing that's put forward? I mean, and again, I'm not asking this in a negative way. I'm curious because it's like, I haven't thought about it before. What does tourism give a county in general? Like, I mean, I'm not putting this well, but I'm curious as to why it's always advocated as such a goal. And I'm wondering economically how all of us would really benefit. All of us would really benefit. And there would be more traffic. I mean, I want this area preserved. I love this area. And I just mean this is a wonderful place and it's a beautiful place. And we've all seen how development can come in on the tail of tourism. That is the fast food joint and the chain motel and the chain gas station grocery store sort of thing. That ultimately degrades the quality that was there to begin with. So I don't understand tourism, and I'm not asking it to be a smart ass. I would like some general enlightenment on what, you know, why is it always brought up as something that we need to try to develop?
Well, first of all, because the state, as well as a number of other states, have features that create the tourism opportunity. Tourism brings people and people spend money. And how do they spend it? Well, in this case here, probably some new businesses, and maybe if you added, I don't know, if you added a restaurant, let me try to answer your question. But if you added something, or the gentleman who owns a cafe across the road, that's going to help him, more bed and breakfast. Maybe you get a hotel, I don't know. But that type of activity and people activity attract businesses to support those people. Okay? That it creates some jobs, it creates investment, it creates a broader tax base for this county. And if there's one thing you don't have, it's a great tax base. I mean, you're dependent for all of your services on about a third of the land base in this county. And the rest of it is pueblos or national park service, national forest service. And they're not paying taxes. So if you've got other development taking place, then the county can collect taxes on that. That means maybe they can build this man's road to the standards he'd like them. Maybe. I can't tell him to spend the money, but I can tell you that the money is there to do that, or more money is there to do that. So the benefits are there. There are disbenefits. There are disbenefits to any growth.
But isn't there something in between where you have a unique place and you keep it unique so that there is a, you know, just like Santa Fe decided that they could have Santa Fe look, their buildings and everything continue to look no matter what it was, like adobe or those colors and everything to keep its integrity. And to me, there seems to be a middle ground here of not having everything that follows exactly.
Be careful how far you go with that. If you talk about Santa Fe or Grants or Milan, they're all into regulation. The look of Santa Fe is regulated, closely regulated. Do you want that? Do you want somebody telling you what style of home you can have or what materials you can use? I'll come to you. That's how far you want to push this.
Well,
This gentleman said, and I understand rural areas. I don't work a lot in Albuquerque or Santa Fe. I work in the rural areas. So I have some understanding, but I don't live here, so I don't have quite the understanding that you folks do, or the appreciation that I admit that. So be careful. Be careful. Oh, this gentleman first.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Like a lot of other folks here, I also relocated from the urban area. And part of it, and I remember seeing a license plate, it was the I in the little heart urban living. And I thought, this person is out of their mind.
Okay.
And you know, we moved here to get away from the regulation and the population density. If you doubled the number of tourists coming out Highway 53, positive impact, I think, would be minimal. There would obviously be a lot more visitors to the monument, but they're not spending money locally. They're gonna stay in Grants, or they're gonna go on to Gallup, but they're not staying locally. They're probably not even necessarily eating locally. So in exchange for all that extra traffic coming through here, we're not gonna see a whole lot of economic benefit. And the folks moved here to get away from a lot of that, they really did. And a comment was made about the night sky. You know, when we sit outside or we walk outside at night, I think there are maybe 2 lights that we can see anywhere, which is really nice, and you can see the stars. But the folks out here are not looking for, you know, a whole lot of development. We pay our taxes, but about the only benefit we see from those taxes is, let's see, if we call the fire department, they come out in McKinley County. They aren't Siebel County. The nearest county firehouse is in San Rafael, and they aren't coming.
No.
If we call for an ambulance, they aren't coming. It's not county, Siebel County ambulance. It's coming out of either Pine Hill or whatever from McKinley County. So we're not getting county services out here.
Let me back that one up just for a second, and we'll get to you. Let me comment. More than likely, and I don't know this, but I can certainly check it quickly, more than likely, there's a mutual aid agreement between Cibola County and McKinley County, because they're closer.
Mm-hmm.
So that's paid for, or it's a barter process, where services are exchanged maybe somewhere else between the 2 counties. So you're getting a service. It's not from Cibola County, but it's through Cibola County's efforts with a mutual aid group. And I don't know, the sheriff's office may operate the same way. I have no idea on that. So,
Yeah, I'd like to strike another note. Compared to the big truck traffic we've got and commercial traffic, you can triple the tourism and you wouldn't see it in traffic increase. We don't have that much tourism. It's not like a huge thing. We could use a lot more tourism than we have. Another thing is that we do need, I think, some regulation. We're not all out here saying we don't want any regulation or legal controls. We believe we need a land use ordinance which will, among other things, protect certain areas along this highway corridor so that we don't get concentrated animal feeding operation or a junkyard or something like that, which will destroy the resource, which is the primary economic artery through this area. So I don't want you to get the impression that everyone out here is saying we don't want any kind of regulation or control.
no, I'm not. No, and I'm not hearing that. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing we want some services. We'd like a balance if there's going to be some growth. But let me ask. I'll come back to that. Let me ask you. Define a land use ordinance for me. What does that mean to you?
A land use ordinance is a plan that establishes certain areas where uses may or may not be allowed. For instance, you could say in the entire county, normal agriculture is fine, small houses are fine, small businesses are fine, but major industry in areas where the environment will be damaged or it is a historical or a cultural great value would be limited, that kind of thing.
I think we're afraid of, like Kate said, fast food places and big signs and big, huge lighted things and people running all over the place. And I think we could be happy with little mom and pop restaurants and things around. And so it might require some sort of regulation. We might have to regulate the wages. I mean, the new store that turned up in Rena, big, huge, bright light when you drive through the town, it's just this huge, horrible thing. I mean, it doesn't belong there. It's our place. We don't want that on this road. We want to have cute, little, attractive family businesses.
Let me ask the group this, and I'm going to play on this gentleman's definition of land use because it's borderline. It's closer than that to zoning. Zoning ordinance. I talk zoning ordinance in a rural area. I need to wear a gun. That's the sheriff. Grand County. I got told bluntly, don't mention the word zoning. Don't even whisper it unless you're wearing a gun, because we don't want anything to do with that. So I didn't. But zoning is land use regulation. And I don't know that you want that. I don't necessarily promote it. If I do promote it, it's usually in small villages, urban villages and towns, and very simple things. You don't need 26 designations for a community of 1,000 people. That's ridiculous. But how do you feel about zoning? Because it is the way, it is the typical way of controlling what happens on a piece of land. And if you don't want the slaughterhouses and the mining mills or whatever polluting the air or near you, then that's what you have. Tell me how you feel about that.
Well, we're not happy about the gravel pit and how the trucks tear up our highways. I can't even turn into my house without going over about this high because they've got such huge trucks, they're big trucks. I mean, stuff like that is crazy.
I'm assuming you call state police?
We are.
You do?
Yeah.
Won't they come out?
Yeah.
Sheriff's
They
Department?
come out once a month, once every 3 months.
Yeah.
No, but going back to, there aren't shoulders on the roads. I mean, we were told
Okay.
that the trucks couldn't be pulled over because there weren't shoulders strong enough on the roads for the semis to go off. Now, that's been mitigated somewhat in a few places.
Okay.
But I mean, it's just sort of like tied into various things that have come up here, you know, in terms of.
Well, go ahead. Yep.
It's a
Zoning ordinance or land use ordinances all depend on who wrote them. If you write them in simple English, as the gentleman back there said, small farms, large farms, no feeder mills, no so forth, that's fine. But once you get a land use and a zoning ordinance, people like to change it too.
That's true.
And it should be right in it that it cannot be changed without a vote of the local people affected. And to go along with that, I'm going to say one more thing, and then I'm going to let you go. I'm Native American in a large part, several different tribes, I'm good old Heinz 57. But I want the res status Indian. I want my brothers to be equal to me. I want them to have the opportunities that I have had, and they weren't easy to get where I got. I worked for an international business machine in the government, and I was in upstate Pennsylvania for 30 years freezing my fan off. Now you know why I'm out here. But
That's why I'm here.
yeah, but that was rural. I had a town every 5 miles, and I had more ordinances than you can ever imagine.
I believe it.
And that's why I'm out here. I don't want that part to change. And as I said, I want people to have the opportunities. Now, yes, you cannot change res status, but you can put in your comprehensive report to urge the county government, to urge the state government, to give it the federal reps, and in the ridiculous status, give the land to them, let them section it out however they want to section it out. I prefer a lot of reasons myself, there's too much politics there too. But then you got a broader tax base. Yeah, you're gonna have more infrastructure. But they have equipment, they have people, they have knowledge. I don't want better knowledge than somebody that came from Washington, D.C. down there to tell them how to build a road.
What's your aim here? What's your,
Today,
yeah, what are we,
it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to get a feel for what you people want, what you'll tolerate in terms of what I might do. I'm looking for parameters that I can work with in terms of economic development initiatives, and they don't have to be the same across the county. I can try and section that off some way, but I'm just trying to get some parameters within which I can work for land use, economic initiatives, and I'm getting some of that. That's my goal. This is an information meeting primarily for me.
I think partly for living out here, being a part of the backside of Seagull County is to pay attention to our needs and wants. But I've gone to county meetings about the gravel trucks and things, and
you have a county commissioner rep for this district?
And he's on our side,
I'm sorry?
so he was for us.
Okay.
But the rest of the county, it's like we're a totally different thing, and they don't care. I don't know here.
The only interest I've seen that Cibola County Administration has in Fence Lake, this area, anything else, is the property taxes they collect. So that they can improve the roads and grants, so that they can pay for schools and grants. I don't see anything that we get as a benefit of paying our property taxes. And I'm not advocating not paying my taxes. I'm just saying, why aren't county services that we need, water, schools, and highways, which is basically all we need out here? Because we're smart enough, the business people here, they're smart enough to earn their livings the way they, small, like somebody said, the small mom-and-pop cafes, the small stores, and stuff like that. This is a rural community, this isn't grants. So why does all of our property tax money go to grants and all?
Where's the closest school?
Well, in our community, as Janet said there, all of our school children have to go technically to their school system, because there is no school system close enough in Cibola County for us to go to.
Well, the arrangement here with Western Cibola and McKinley solves that school problem too. Kids out there don't have to go to grants and
They go to
stuff.
Reno.
They go to Reno, so it's the same, that kind of mutual agreement, but it's variable. I mean, they could withdraw at any time.
This used to be the schoolhouse in Cibola County, this building.
This is, yeah.
Oh, we got a school in Fence Lake, it's the community center now.
That's what this is.
Okay.
Yeah, the school.
Another point, the field fire department,
Oh, you're barking up the wrong tree. You really got the wrong. You asked about county commissioners. They don't want to hear it, they don't want to respond to you, and they live on the res, and they only serve the res.
Well, they can't all live on it.
Ours does.
Okay.
he doesn't return phone calls.
Okay.
And another thing about the fire department, they have red lines, green lines, whatever. We don't get services. I live by the Pearl 1, 2, about 3 miles south. I'm out of the green zone. They have to call Santa Fe before they can come service a fire. Now, I'm 20 miles from the border, so that means there's 20 miles of land out there on fire. Nobody's gonna respond unless somebody gets Santa Fe. We don't have phones. We don't have electric service.
Do you have cell phone service?
Nope,
No.
Huh?
nope.
Okay. No, that's not.
No, I'm just saying.
I haven't checked one out.
Well, you might have it here, I don't know. Down over here.
Yes, sir.
Yes. I have to work here for animal.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yes, but I get back my neighbors. Anyway, I know the gravel trucks get a lot of grief for the highways here. When I lived other places, I came here from East Texas, we had log trucks that ran highways. And, God, I can't think that, I'm saying something nice about Texas. But they actually had highways that could accommodate log trucks. If you build the road right, it can accommodate these trucks. And it's not just the gravel trucks, there's a lot of other truck traffic through here. And why they're, maybe trying to avoid the checkpoints. Other traffic.
Overloaded.
That if the state would build decent highways out here, that's not a county, every county, state, that these roads wouldn't be so bad. Because I like having gravel in my garbage.
Are the transportation, state transportation inspectors out on the road here at all, ever?
The fellow covers 3 counties.
Yeah.
So he's out here
Okay.
once every 2-3 months.
Yeah.
That seems to be a typical problem.
Let me
Okay.
open this up a little bit for you. The state engineer, highway engineering office has told me that they had 1/3 of their roads are still dirt, or gravel. No road bed. Another, more than 1/3 is chip seal, which has no road bed. You put trucks over Chipsy, which I suspect this one probably is. It's gonna push it out, especially if it's sitting over clay and water.
Instead of a proper.
Yeah,
We asked for a bicycle path, and it was started, but it never got here.
On 53?
From Grants to, where they moved it
To Zoom.
to Zuni, and it's only half done, and we'd love to have that bicycle path.
What's, Scott, is there no money for it, no support?
I don't know what happened.
That's what you should, okay, yes, sir.
You were gonna mention the mining situation in the
Yep.
Grants area, and, when the mines were running, it affected some people out here because there was employment. And people would drive down there, or they would stay down there, and they would live out here. There were lots of things that affected this area, maybe just marginally, but it's also an impact on water, which you
Yeah.
said we have outdated information about. And that just seems to me a contradiction, to try to do planning about one thing when you don't have adequate data on the most precious resource in the state. How old is the data that you're,
12 years.
12 years?
That's the regional plan.
Right, okay.
Milan and Grants have more current plans
Okay.
themselves.
Okay.
And I don't know if the 40-year water plan, which is required by the state now, whether it's being redone or not. It certainly should be. Let's talk about this a little bit. I mentioned earlier that there seems to be a resurgent in interest in the uranium industry. And so far in my meetings, I think Teresa, it's a pretty even split. People like it, people don't. And there doesn't seem to be an in-between on this. What seems to be a positive factor this time around, but it has a negative to it. The positive factor is that the new technology, which is a leaching process, is a much safer process and a less polluting process. The downside is it uses water. Now, if they had a way of recirculating this, then maybe it works. I don't know that they do, but I do know it uses water. And that's an issue here.
I worked for EPA for 25 years, and the leaching process is not safe. It's
Okay.
they inject an excipients that they can't control what's in the groundwater. They try with peripheral wells, but you know, it is an unknown process. It looks safer because what's happening is underground. But believe me, it is not a safe process.
I would just add another thing about the water use, that when they drill a well, when they drill a mine, they've got to keep that mine dry to be in there. In order to keep it dry, they drill wells peripherally around the mine itself, and then you have a cone of suppression. What that ends up doing, and for instance, this uranium facility that they're developing up near San Mateo, what they're doing is they're taking the water they pump out of there, they're ostensibly removing nucleotides. I went to those meetings and couldn't find out where they're putting those nucleotides, but then they're giving the water to the Lee Ranch, which God bless them, but what it has the effect of is depressing the water table up here in the Zunis. And that was seen when they stopped the deep mining in the end of the 70s and everybody's water table came up. So there is definitely a link between the type of mining that's going on when they're pulling water out without limit and when they're not putting it back in.
Come to you in a second, sir. Then let me ask, and then I'll come back to you. Let me ask the group, just a show of hands, please. How many people would support a resurgence in the uranium industry here? I don't need a show of hands.
Okay, I won't say I would vote for or against the resurgence, but I will mean that which is an absolute struggle. We were guaranteed that when they came out with this, only low level waste, and it was middle level waste. I'm not sure that that's all that's in there now. And caving's going to happen. Well, I don't know, I worked around stuff at salt mines, whatever, 11 nuclear instrumentation back then. It's just a spot for trouble. Yeah, it's very deep, but it's still contamination, and it is going to contaminate the ground. And if there's any water in the area, it'll contaminate that. Now, as I said, I was in upstate Pennsylvania, Scranton, Carbondale was the temperate cold. Several of the mines are closed. Most of them still have a lot of coal in them, but there's water, all through there. One of the mines wanted to pump the water out and filter it and use it, agriculturally, not necessarily for human use.
Okay.
Oh, no, can't do that, EPA and, they shut them right down. 5 years later, after bankruptcy, the US government went right in and knocked holes in the bottom and dumped the water right into the dirt, like the people were going to accept it. They didn't filter it, the miners were going to filter it. The track record of the government, and if you don't believe, just look up mountain here, from grants and what have you, from the mines, their track record is lousy. Every time the politicians get involved, they overrule the engineers and so forth, and you wind up with trouble. Now, as far as the water in the county, the government keeps trying to give it to the Native Americans or whatever. It's all a crock. It starts in Arctic Ocean, it filters down through Canada, all the way to the equator, where it winds up in either the Atlantic or the Pacific. Who owns it? Well, I'm sorry, but if you want to start fighting in Canada. I mean, they got more claim than we do if we want to play that game. Personally, I would like to see in there, in your comprehensive plan, that people, landowners, and I'm not talking commercial now, but for private and agriculture, they should be able to put a well down or renew a well, as the case may be, for their own use. Now, that's not to sell water and pipe it from Pipetown down to the valley. It's like for their own personal use, water their stock, water their gardens, whatever. That should be in there, and there should be no regulations against them, no matter how much they need, don't meter it, it's their private business. They're not hurting anybody else. And I don't know if you're aware, but Fence Lake area, there was a river in Arizona. Okay, well, on the west side of the continental divide. We have 100 foot of alluvial in most places. And you know what? Concrete, but there is no water. You can get the water above it, or you go down and get the water below it. There's a lot of sodium in the water. Most people don't even know they got sodium in their water. Costs money to treat it.
I guess somehow water and groundwater is at the root of a lot of things. And if there's one thing that I had to pick, I don't know, maybe I take this back, so immediately I'm thinking of the air as well, but to make an ordinance that protects the individual landholders' groundwater, then that's going to make it harder for certain extractive industries, including large animal facilities. I mean, I think that if we really looked at protecting groundwater and from overuse, from being pumped out, because we all share, we have little pockets, little water pockets around here, and various of us will be on a well, and we're all sort of sharing the same pot of water. But anyway, I just think that that would be a good place to start. I guess I guess all I'm trying to say in this whole process as we go along, that I'm not so much in favor of a bunch of little details of like you can't have this and you can't have that, and you want this and you don't want that. But I want those things that I am here for, the water, the air, the quiet, to be, and dark, to be what is the most important. And if I want to have a business or an industry then it's to me to figure out how to fit it within these basic parameters in terms of water usage and water pollution, and air pollution, and light
Okay.
pollution. I don't know if I'm,
I'm
it's,
good. Let me come back.
Make sure we're right
No, hold on just a second. I got gentleman A at the back and then.
I just wanted to ask you to educate me. So when you talk about zoning, you mentioned, for instance, this or that restriction. For instance, suppose there were, my question to you is, how is zoning done? That is to say, could, for instance, skylighting, like I understand there's a national code about letting, having lights that shine straight up rather than having reflectors that bounce them down. For instance, our zoning court, or at the county level that we're talking about here, is there an ability to implement, for instance, a lighting code that, without doing, and by that I mean like the night lighting, there's a national code that
There's a state law.
you see, thank you, yeah. But what I'm trying to ask you, please, is would you describe for us, in your professional knowledge, how inclusive are zoning type restrictions? Are they always a body of things? Are they, specifically like no smudge spots, asphalt burning things, or educate me on what's available?
Typically, right now in the rural areas, the Night Sky Act is put into subdivision ordinances. But it can be in the zoning ordinance, but it can be as detailed in terms of types of lighting, how much lighting, what the lumens are, or candles that are allowed, and I'm talking outdoor, not indoor, because that's where your night sky is mostly affected. But you can have as much detail as you want on the types of standards, the shades that are used, how light's directed.
So what area are we speaking for here?
Yeah, I can answer that question.
No, the Night Sky Act applies to the whole state,
It's a
except for
state law.
federal lands.
Yep.
And there are exceptions for security reasons. Say you have a prison, you don't have to pay attention to the Night Sky Act. If it's
There are
gonna
exceptions.
be.
Yes, ma'am.
The problem is,
But, I'm sorry, have I answered your question?
Actually, these folks are sort of answering. So what I was trying to ask though is that it is possible when you're talking zoning not to get down to you have to be beige and you're stucco or something like that.
No.
But it can be
No,
very
you're not.
broad.
no big industry.
So it's not like take this whole package of zoning limitations or nothing. It can be something that matters to us in the area.
Zoning can be, it can fit what you want, what you'll accept. It can be simple, stupid. And I mean that kindly. It's just simple, stupid. He talked about plain wood. And with all that, do I have any attorneys here? Well, I'm only one.
So what area?
You let the attorneys write the law. No problem. I've seen it.
What area are we speaking for? Like, are we saying, what we want it to be like between here and all the way to the edge of Grants? Or are we talking about what we want it to be like all the way to Zuni? Or what area are we talking about, us here today in this meeting?
I'm talking about whatever you're talking about, ma'am. I'm not splitting the county up into bits and pieces. I gotta come up with an overall concept, a plan, comprehensive plan for the county as a whole. And from the looks of things, I've got some things to balance. And the way real life works, I may not be able to. You may be unhappy, or Grants may be unhappy, I don't know.
So what is the budget for this plan?
Well, the CDBG grant, I wish Judy was here, I think it was $44,000.
That's not a lot.
No, it's not a whole lot. The
That's
county,
not implementation, that's just you doing your survey, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's just
That's
figuring
correct.
out what.
yeah,
Yes.
and on top of that, though, just so you know, the county has added, again, I wish Judy was here, 9,000. And that was for me to do some extra public meetings. That was for me to take on revising the subdivision ordinance and taking a look at this land use thing.
Well, and to segue on what you just said, I work in Zuni, the other half of Highway 53. Is there going to be a linkage with McKinley County? How will this continue? If So it's county by county, so it's according to the commissioners of McKinley if they want to pursue this or not.
No, one of the things that I will look at will be the comprehensive plan that's in place for McKinley. What have they done around the border? I will look at that. I'll do that with Valencia as well. Sure.
I'd like to point
No, it's a
out,
public meeting.
Yeah,
As
well,
long as everybody
I
gets a
want to point
chance.
out something. She says there's lots of old pockets of water, and she is correct. But the major aquifer, it starts well above Grants, North Grants, and goes over through Zuni land into Arizona. That is probably 90% of the water in Siegel County. And when the gentleman said they stopped mining and the table come back up,
Yep.
that's why. It is, if you start regulating the water in general, you're in trouble. If you allow the individuals to take their own water, and I realize not everybody has their own well, some of the community wells, but that's a different category than saying, I'm gonna pipe water for a mine, or something like that.
Yep.
You need to have individual water, individual controls. Or you want a community, I mean, this lake itself has a community well. Legal or illegal, I don't know. But it's there. And there's nothing wrong. And it's probably into this aquifer. It's not in the one I'm in, because right below where I am, I'm on the other side of the bridge. And we're in a whole different ballgame here for water. So, that's just so she knows.
I've lived out here for 30 years, and the most negative impact during that time has been the gravel truck they run hundreds of them probably a day, up and down this highway, and that is just horrible. So any future development, and we have no say, I mean, there have been some public meetings, but as someone else mentioned, we have no input in that they're roaring by here all the time. So if there's any future development, I think that should be a major consideration of what is going to be the impact on the highway if it's an industry that does something.
And the water, and the air, and the noise. I mean, that's all good. I love having the gravel here. I'm like Sharon. We all drive on it, we walk on it, our lives, we couldn't get to work if we didn't have the gravel around. But I would like to see if there's gonna be a gravel pit that they have to pay attention to and be monitored or whatever about water, air, and noise.
And safety.
And safety. Yeah.
I just add something, Kate talked about the danger of having a large water user in the area. We've been involved in something called the Zuni River Basin litigation. And basically that litigation, one of the results of that litigation is that the state engineer's office has quantified the water in this basin and allocated it in such a way with judicial orders related to it in such a way that it will give us a lot more protection. If, for instance, Gallup says we want to come out, which they did at one time and put in a deep well to help Gallup, or we want to start liquefying coal and running through a pipeline and just using, hundreds of thousands of gallons just to transport coal. So that was a step in the right direction. So we have some better protection than we had before that.
Yes, hello, my name is Martha Garcia. I came by to see what was going on, and we're not a pueblo. We are in Manapoo chapter, and we live up here in the western part of Cibola County, and we have enjoyed what people are talking about here, the quietness, the underdevelopment for centuries, I guess. We love this area. This is my home. My grandparents and my forefathers have always lived in this area, and we've enjoyed it. And now we have some developments that are happening. We are bordered on the east side by the conservation area. on the west side by the Zuni Reservation and a lot of BLM land. On the south side, we have some private lands, but there's a large ranch holding that's out there. And within the last 40 years, we've seen subdivisions popping up. You have Candy Kitchen, you have Timberlake, you have Pine Meadows. And these were put in place without a lot of thoughts and things put into it. And as a Raymond Apple community, we have to adapt to it, whether we liked it or not. And as a result, we end up having to force to provide services in a way. We talked about the ambulance services. There's no other ambulance in the area except Pine Hill. And we know that they serve western Sequoia County. And same way with law enforcement service. We're very lucky to see a state police out here. Sheriff's Department, the same way. You know, every time we have an election, every 4 years, they come by and get our votes. We don't see them for the next 3 years. Lo and behold, election comes up and we see all kind of Sheriff's Department going to grants today. I saw 4 vehicles and I thought, boy, that's what you see in a year off election year. So our law enforcement from the Raymond Law Enforcement Department are the first responder in this area. And they've been utilized a lot. There's no agreement in place with Sequoia County. They said no to us.
I'm sorry, the county has said no, chief?
There's no agreement.
There's not a reciprocal agreement, and it's really bad in terms of, you know, who has jurisdiction over where. It's crazy.
The only thing is we have agreement with McKinley County, but that's a very small portion of our area, and they're able to provide services there without somebody raising an issue over it. So that's what we're faced with. And when we talk about economic development, you talk about tourism, and I feel for the people here because that's how we felt, people coming into the area and providing, you know, we don't know what it's in. We don't know what it's going to look 20 years down the road. We can say no, but it's going to happen. But we have the opportunity to say what kind of developments we want. We want clean development. We want things that are not going to be making noise. We don't want Orlando out here, that type of activity. We don't want Santa Fe out here. I've seen the Pueblo of Taos. It was a beautiful Pueblo at one time. Right now you have people running around looking to everybody's window, and you don't have any privacy. We don't want that here. We want areas to be set aside. That's what zoning is all about. We have, our community has a land use plan where it says this area is going to be grazing, this area is going to be certain things, so we understand that. And then the other thing that has really become an issue for us in our community, and it's something that as Native Americans or as Navajos, we just don't talk about it, and that's cemetery. So now you have cemeteries, graveyards all over the place. We just allowed that to happen. So now we're looking at that, trying to identify use our neighboring cemetery in Rama. So those are some of the things that allows you to do development so that it's clean, it's organized, and it doesn't disturb your neighbors and stuff like that. That's what we should be doing here. And the other thing that you mentioned was you're going to have a committee to decide this. We don't want anybody from Grants and Milan deciding for us. It should be these people here. The committee should come from the rural area, not from Grants and Milan. They're the ones that don't listen to us. They don't pay attention. We're forgotten. We just don't We just don't see them. We have a representative that's supposed to be representing all of western Cibola County that lives on the other side of Grants in a pueblo. And we never hear his voice. He never represents us. We don't have a representative to the state that comes out, except on election day. We don't know who he is. We have a lot of problems with that. And we have a representative, a state senator that's out of Yellow. We never see him. The only day we see him is on election day. Comes around with people, you guys seen it all. They come to the chapter and they set up their little booth and
Bring their hot dogs.
so those things happen. And people that do come care about us do come by once in a while. We've had Senator Heinrich Rich come by last couple of weeks ago, and Tom Udall knows the area. So, you know, people like them, they come around, but they're very busy in Washington and very hard to get things across. But when you do, I see a response, even on a personal basis. I had some issue and I said, we need this resolved. And right away, it was a personal issue and we got a response within a month. And we did that for our community. We have a little BIA agency that was going to close down. And lo and behold, last week we got word that our senator was up there saying no, went to the central office, and that's going to be open. So a lot of things are like that. McKinley County shares their road department with one another, with Indian communities. Cibola won't. We had a little stretch of road by Candy Kitchen that's not exactly what we want. Yes, tourist development we want to see, but we want to see it so that it's something that they will come out and enjoy and see the diversity of our area here, that we share into that there are so many things to see from ancient times to the current times that should be implemented if that's going to be economic development that's going to be there. And water, we talk about water. Yes, you can find water up to 800 feet, but it's very, maybe be lucky if you can get 10 gallons per minute. You have to go way deep. We've got 2 deep wells to serve our community, and they're over close to 3,000 feet, some over a mile, and it comes out hot.
It's
I wonder
not-
if it's really
it's
down
not
there,
brackish.
it's hot.
It's not brackish from that depth?
It is very, we have to put in a treatment plant at one areas. So we have treatment plants, that's very expensive to do, but that's the only way that we can provide water to our community. And the other thing is, when you have federal government regulating certain things, we've got buildings that are built with federal monies, and they require certain things. And one of them is the water sprinkler, and you have to have a lot of pressure to run those kind of facilities. We're putting up the detention facilities, and I know that you have all been worried about the black lights and all that, and we're going to shine light, whatever. But no, we're working on it so that our architect has been able to try to tone it down as much as we can, and it's just for community members. So it's not a prison. It's just holding facilities, a place where they shouldn't spend no more than a year if somebody commits something. All major crimes are taken off the reservations. We're not even a reservation. We live on 7 different type of land status within the Reno community. So jurisdiction is an issue, and but we have to deal with it, and we have to learn how to live with that. And some of the areas you are able to get back and forth from your home places to using our road through our community, but we don't put up a toll or anything. We just, we try to improve on those, but very, very expensive. And so there are some things we see coming down the road, and we just need to be prepared and see what we're talking about. And I think that's the reason why we have never really been big on tourism and all that. We have the means, we have people that are doing arts and crafts, native arts and crafts. We have a Weavers Association that produces a really beautiful rugs and all that. But they have to take those off and sell them at the big markets when they come around and all that. And when we have the fall ancient way, and I think they're not having a spring one, then that's when they come out and do sell stuff like that. But we have to plan it out so that it's not going to become a circus type of event, that it would be clean, that we would be prepared for it, and that we would have the infrastructure to do it out of that would complement the area. And that's what we want to move along, so that it's not just an overnight stand that are popping up in other places.
Right.
That's what we don't want to see.
Okay.
So
And
if
I think what you've done, I mean, you've supported just about what everybody else has been saying here, and I appreciate that.
and then no mining at all.
I heard that.
The other thing is, if there's a way that we can ask the gravel company to reclaim the land, because when you fly over and you look down, it's just, it's really ugly. It's really ugly, and it doesn't help us out here at all.
Okay.
I think what she just said, like you said, it speaks volumes. One, we do not get any representation in France. They don't look at us, we do not exist on the map. We're the lost colony. Otherwise, what we want is what she just said. Peace and quiet, no disturbances from big trucks or whatever. Like he said about being on a through road, I'm on a through road. And half of the year, if it rains or snows, there's nothing but a sloppy mess. But all I want is enough water to water my garden and a few fruit trees. And if I want to raise a cow, yeah, I want enough to water my cow. I want peace and quiet.
Okay.
And I don't need people in Grants and Milan standing up there telling me how I should live or what I can have on my property.
I'll come back to you.
My name is Mitzi Frank, and I'm the new superintendent of the National Park Service at El País and El Morro National Monuments. And what I'd like to do is, I guess, go on record as saying that I support almost everything that everyone has said here. The major concerns that we have for both national monuments, of which I'm charged with preserving and protecting for the American people, not just those that live here in this valley, but for the people of the United States of America. And the things that I'm charged with preserving and protecting are air quality, night skies, the natural resources, the cultural resources. You know, the challenges that we have today are immense in how we preserve and protect these people for the public of the United States. I don't know how many of you know the mission and the philosophy, or the mission of the National Park Service is to preserve and protect these areas but also allowing for use and enjoyment of the areas. And how can we do that? That's how do you provide for use and enjoyment and preserve something at the same time? So there's an incredible balance that we have to reach when we do this. Sometimes we're good at it, and sometimes we're not good at it. But it's a challenge that I see that this valley has to take on in order to preserve the quality of life that they expect. And if that's through some type of zoning regulations or something to protect themselves and the rest of us to do so, then I think that that's something that needs to be considered. Things that we're concerned about, like I said, air quality. The quarry presents an air quality issue, the dust, the traffic. I was here a few months ago in a detail assignment as an acting superintendent before I got the position, and I almost lost my life because the truck was traveling so fast around that curve at the La Tinaja that the trailer swerved around into the lane that I was driving in. So I think we need to be concerned about not only our safety, but the safety of those people who come to enjoy this area, including El Malpais and El Morro. I think I'm really concerned about what the lady from the Rama Navajo said is the development. One of the things that makes El Malpais and El Morro so special is the fact that when people come here, they get a real sense of place. They get a sense of being or stepping back into time because there's relatively no development here. And so if we have housing developments that go in willy-nilly or however people want to have them, then we have those negative effects on our quality of life and what we represent here. So I think we need to, as members in a group, a county organization, we need to come up with some kind of way to regulate what goes on to some degree to keep those kinds of things from happening. And that may not be what some people want to hear, but we need to think about protecting the land values, and I don't mean just monetary values, but the qualities that the land represents here. And the only way we can do that is by implementing something to protect us from outside development. And I've only been here 3 weeks in my permanent capacity, and this is one of the most beautiful places on God's earth, and I think there are things that we need to do to protect your quality of life, those of you that have lived here for 30, 40, or 50 years or come from generations of people that have lived here. I think that's really important, but that's my personal opinion, but also a professional opinion based on what I need to do to what I've been charged with, preserving and protecting the quality and the sense of place that the monuments provide.
I think you should notice that there are way too many subdivisions around here that have not been sold. If you do your research and look at the numbers of the subdivisions and the size of them and the 5 acre lots that just didn't ever sell. I mean, it's one sold here, one sold there, one sold there, and there's all these other lots. So if you're going to be revisiting the subdivision, you're not going to make sure that the county allows people to start putting parts of back together by the council partners and that is something that can happen according to some regulations. I don't know what it's called. We need, we just don't need any more subdivisions, especially by they're everywhere, we find a dozen.
I don't know if anybody's aware that the York Ranch, which was 2 million, plus what is now Great Western, they bought multiple ranches. There's a portion or all of it is being turned into big game area, owned by sports page. Because that's going to affect not just all the people here, especially if you've got animals like lions and stuff. So it's going to affect their own law and values and everything else. If there's one mistake or 2 mistakes, it's that.
Maybe we're talking about, area I'm talking about is like from San Rafael all the way to the Green River Station. And I'm not talking about Finch Lake, where these folks live, because that's a very different area. I think we're talking about protecting and maybe looking at some land use ordinance, is this Highway 53 corridor.
Yeah,
But
it's
it's
a
not-
scenic byway.
Yeah.
What's the,
But he was saying, you know, what area are we talking about?
Yeah.
That's what I envision.
yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm hearing is that there are similar issues in both areas.
Yeah, it's a big county.
I'm sorry, it's that.
Is this actually a designated scenic byway by the state?
Yes.
Because I don't see it on, sometimes on the map.
Well, there is right outside of Grants, it says you start to see.
Yeah.
The main reason is there's funding issues.
Pardon?
That's right.
Yeah.
There is funding.
Right. That's why there's not more signage than you do see. There's a few token signs. But it is a designated state.
Well, doesn't that provide some, is there anything involved in that designation that provides some protection of the surrounding area? Just the road.
Designation.
It's unfortunate.
It's now up to the county to do that.
Yeah. Somebody, back again, Dan will come back.
I just wanted to say one other thing, which is, we've talked a lot about 53 and 53 corridor. As you do your research, you'll see that there's another small road, but that, as you come up with called Zuni Canyon, there's several communities in there, and that's where I live in several, I mean, there's a small, but of course significant body of people up there. What I'm trying to say is that I think what you'll find is that those folks also would basically like to be left alone, maybe with the ability to have fire response when needed. You know, I mean, the idea of someone coming from Fence Lake to do fire, you know, work on a house 15 miles out of Grants is kind of odd. So what I'm just trying to express is that as well as 53, the lack of development or lack of unorganized development, there are other communities, particularly the Zuni Canyon community, which similarly would like to be not developed or left alone. And I, doubt for economic reasons there's much on the table. I just want to express to you as a county development, or someone looking at the county, there's also a significant population. There's a little community, Lahara, and there's also other people living off that road. A lot of the same kind of age group people, say people who've been out here for a while and got out here to be in the country, to be in a beautiful country. So I just want to say there's another population area that you're probably not so aware of that probably shares a lot of the goals that you're hearing expressed on 53.
Okay.
Do you have information about the populations in various places around the county that's separate from the cities or the towns?
You're talking numbers.
Yeah,
Yes.
numbers, yeah.
Yeah.
Just one.
We had asked you a question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say about law enforcement. This lady from Pine Hill was talking about how Pine Hill provides law enforcement. Maybe not. I have had instances where I have called them because I've been told that they would. And they asked me, is the person Native American? It happened to not be. So they said, call your county sheriff. Now, if you're speeding through here, then Navajo will stop you in a minute. Yeah. So,
But you can find it.
do what?
You can find it unless they're cross division.
I got a question in terms of like the process going forward. Is what you're taking in today, what you will then be able to come back, say you said in June, with, some ideas that are more cohesive as you take in?
Cohesive and concrete, yes.
Right. And then what would you be wanting from us? Feedback on that
Yes.
and other ideas?
Yes.
Because I think today.
Yes. Or have I missed, yes, or have I missed the point of something? And that can certainly happen.
So it's
The
still a
presentation-
conversation.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. The presentation will be much longer, and the slide, the PowerPoint presentation will be much longer, and more slides involved in that, a little more detail. And I'm going to be looking for comments. Again, you either like it, you don't, like you think about doing this,
So
Or
in
even just
some
the
ways
point
it would
that you
still
break
be
it up.
fluid in other uses.
Yes, ma'am?
Okay. Is there a way to get input from now and then?
No, I don't hear it. Yes, absolutely. That's
That's
my,
why
you got it.
because,
It's up on the-
because
up
we
on the-
might, you know, we might wanna get together, gather our thoughts and think about.
Sure.
Yeah, they have it.
You bet.
You
You bet. By all means.
Okay. Have you, come across any other counties that have been sensitive to kind of the sense of place that we're talking about here, along 53 and that, and like the scenic byways and other counties that have made special designation for a certain place?
I've come across kind of, limit grants, Eddie, they all have similar concerns. None of them have done anything specific.
None of the counties in the scenic byway network have coalesced in any way for asking certain.
Not that I'm aware of, I won't say it hasn't happened. Anything else? Well, let me ask you about alternate energy and your feelings about that, wind farms, solar fields. Matt?
I have no problem, generally speaking, with alternative energy sources. My concern is how they're cited, and that before wind farms, and in particular, are put up, that the land is actually studied so that we don't lose a significant number of birds and bats that are found in places like Baltimore. But that they're not just put up haphazard willy-nilly, that we're going to put it up simply because it's renewable energy, although it's done in a responsible fashion.
He has a real good idea for alternate energy.
Does he?
Yes, he does.
Okay.
Leave it to the individual. Put it on us, get rid of the grid. Keep the grid only for commercial businesses. The money they're spending on these wind farms, you could outfit every house in New Mexico and probably every house in Arizona with solar or wind power or both. And you wouldn't have a need for all that.
Okay.
And you wouldn't even have to maintain it if you didn't want to. The energy company could come in and check your batteries and whatever else.
Yeah, and Idaho falls out of Idaho, I should say, in subdivisions. That's how they do it. They didn't
For the
want-
subdivision.
Yeah, well, they were military people that were going to schools, but they didn't want to run power lines. And I don't know, everybody's there, or someone else, I wouldn't want main lines either. But they would not put solar up on all the buildings, they maintain them, and everybody's happy.
Nobody's stopping you from doing it.
Well, I'm not gonna do it late, but I do my own.
Sure.
It certainly beats wind farms and large megawatt solar installations. Those same panels can generate just as much power, and you don't have all the losses, you don't have all the leakage, you don't have blinding reflections, you don't have birds killed. A lot of things, they're much more benefiting, and like I say, in this area, in general, like the southwest.
Okay.
You can put it on all the buildings that are available. And there's lots of them available, even though the city allows it to such a no more.
Yeah, we travel quite a bit, especially in the winter, and I can say that wind farms are ghastly.
I'm sorry.
Their wind farms
Are
terrible.
terrible. Okay.
They
Gasoline was
gasoline.
Okay.
They totally ruin, especially we spent some time around the Palm Springs area, which used to be gorgeous. And it's total distraction from the mountains and the areas. Pardon?
Dogs bark
Yeah. I know the birds are visually they're terrible, and we've seen it in other places too. The solar panels seem to have been more strategically put in outside areas more, that,
Most of them lower.
And they're low.
They're lower.
They're low. Yeah.
But I think we could find a place way back in the middle of nowhere maybe that would be acceptable.
Yeah, just not on.
Because we believe in alternative.
somewhere else, but not on our place. somewhere else.
Are you guys aware of this wind farm in Laguna?
Way out.
Have you ever noticed that?
Pardon?
But there's no.
Speaking of how unsightly they are you all aware that there's a wind farm in Laguna?
Up on the mesa?
I mean, what I'm trying to say is they don't necessarily have to be god-awful ugly.
That's right.
I'm not trying to say that
Yeah.
it should be your house or my house or something like that. But I'm just saying,
Siding is important.
siding is important both mechanically for the wind and also for how it's done. But you seem to think that alternative wasn't, or I construed from your initial remarks, that you thought that alternative wasn't a big practicality or something out here? Or did I misunderstand?
No.
But
All I was trying to, I'm often asked, and I thought before I asked, they're not huge job generators.
Right.
Okay. On the on-site facility itself, small number of jobs, as I said, 50 wind towers.
No, I took your point, 0.8 per 10 megawatts.
That's about it. Yeah.
But-
So that's all I was saying, that they do generate jobs, they do create energy, but it's not, they're not going to produce 5,000 jobs for you. That doesn't make them bad. I'm not opposed
Okay,
to it.
thank you for clarifying. But I make 2 points on that. The first is, this being a fairly dispersed community, there's a significant utility
Yeah.
in having local sources like alternative energy. Second thing, speaking of jobs and improving the county, the cleanup, which has been promised for the old uranium mines and the Superfund money, which was supposed to go to that, all these things would bring, we're cleaning up grants to be furthered or to conform to what at one time were the requirements, that would be a tremendous amount of jobs. It would be a very clean industry, you might say. And, I just like to say that's one way of cleaning up the area, getting jobs, and I just encourage the county to consider furthering that, furthering cleaning up the
Can I ask, does
EPA.
anybody know, I've heard at other meetings that the cleanup after the uranium industry left that was supposed to take place didn't take place. Is that true? Is that correct?
Although they just recently allocated $1 billion to clean up on the Navajo reservation. I don't know if it's uranium and coal or which, but it's probably the
Big
uranium.
red? It's the uranium portion of it, but that's only a drop in the bucket compared to what has to do. Most of which is especially the uranium plus.
Yeah.
Alternative. And I don't know if this county is not too acceptable to you for different technologies. But we have created, the government has created consultancies, we gave to Israel, they improved the hell out of it. And there's no
Thank you,
reason.
folks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There's no reason this county has a lot of water available. It's deep, yes. It's brackish, yes. But if we got such a water shortage, why doesn't the county invest in some deep wells and some desalting or brackish water?
And the same for California.
There are counties looking
And
at
I know you don't do that, but it's ridiculous that they sit there and whine that they've got a drought.
And they got an ocean full of water.
it. Understand?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's both coasts, it isn't just California. And California actually did have two, and offered it to the state of California, and they turned it down.
Oh, did they give it to Mexico?
No, they finally disassembled them.
It's 4:15 and I'm losing people here. Is there, just a minute, sir. Man, you haven't said anything. Gentleman back here, say, any comments? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I do put you on the spot. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Actually, before we do adjourn, I want to make a plug for a region-wide effort called SET. How many of you have heard of that? If you have, then I won't go into it. It is short for, or an acronym for Stronger Economies Together.
Yep.
It's a USDA program, and actually in collaboration with the Cooperative Extension Service out of NMSU. But the three counties involving Cibola County, but also McKinley and San Juan County, we were approved as a SET program site, and the Northwest New Mexico Council of Governments, Evan Williams Turf, is also a co-collaborator in all of this, and we've been trying to get the word out, thanks to the Cibola Beacon, among others, over the last few months. But actually, the first round of meetings and the whole program around this will start in our area April 30th and May 1st. May 1st, actually, for grants, and that's going to be at NMSU. And basically what it is, it's an opportunity for the region to have a conversation, much like this, around economic development. And it's an opportunity for more of these kinds of dialogues about the kind of things that we want to see happen, and to create sort of a grassroots up effort to communicate with the powers that be, with the county commissioners, economic development people, and I think one of the strongest things that this effort is good for is what was happening here. It's a county-wide, region-wide conversation. We start to have conversations in a way that maybe they wouldn't have happened. I have some information, and if folks are interested, be glad to share some with you. But it's set, Stronger Economies Together, and look for that. Zuni on April the 30th, that's at the UNM Zuni campus, and that's 1 p.m. to 4. And then on Grants, May the 1st, it's 9 a.m. to 12.
And Tom, it runs, your set runs along the scenic byway, right?
Well, we're calling it Trail of the Ancients Regional Network. And basically, we were addressing our scenic byway a little bit earlier. We are the southern link of a much larger, the Trail of the Ancient Scenic Byway, which basically is the whole skeleton for this three-county northwest New Mexico. If you look at it, the way we get around this via the scenic byway. And given how large our region is, we were talking about Cibola County being large and diverse, and I'm throwing the other two counties very large. So that's why there's actually going to be three different, somewhat concurrent, sequential sessions, so that folks in particular parts of the region can come together and have these kinds of dialogues instead of just being one for the whole region. It's a process that will take maybe over a year or so. And there'll be a meet gathering once a month, and pretty much at the locations. I didn't mention Shiprock, but any of you who happen to live in that part of the region, April 29th, actually, is going to be their kickoff. So it indeed is coming together, having these dialogues, and having a sub-regional dialogue. And that's why grants for Zoom for us is what we're talking about. So if you'd like to know more, I can share that with you.
Okay, and I probably didn't tell you what the cost of the plug.
We'll send it somewhere.
Anything? Yes,
How will we know, I only got a phone call about 2 hours before this meeting that it was going to occur. How would information about when and where before?
Tell me how best to get it to you.
Pigeons.
Seriously?
Cell phones don't work out here. Internet's real expensive. So
Get the newspaper?
How about the press?
They don't, I mean.
It was advertised in the.
Look at that Judy letter, some of us,
Yeah,
and then we can try to.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll be happy to do
Do
that.
an
Yeah,
email,
absolutely.
send or something.
Okay.
That's only good for people that have email.
Well, that's true, but there are a number of things that we can do, and hopefully something gets to everybody. Okay. We'll try to do better. I didn't know. I know that all I do is I draft the notice of the meeting, and the county takes the responsibility for getting it out. And I know they put it in the paper, they tried posting it in a number of areas.
They really, we just have to do a better job, because Judy did a great job of even getting it out here, because she knows about how important it is out there to be heard, so we appreciate it.
And we'll try to, we'll all do that. Okay. Anything else? Folks, thank you very much.